Order, Environment Sustainability Committee meeting for Monday, August 21st. Can have any conflicts of interest and declaration of conflict of interest?
Yeah, I'd be in conflict of the transportation pathway there,
Yep.
Terry. So
Thank you. Anybody
Thank
else? We're good? Okay. Can I have approval of the agenda? Moved by Trevor, second by
Sure.
Bob. Can I have approval of the minutes for July 31st, 2023?
Sure.
Moved by Trevor, second by Bobby. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports and discussions. The first one being the Charlottetown Perimeter Highway Active Transportation Pathway. So, Bob, you've excused yourself. So
Sure.
we're going to move on.
Mute.
Okay.
Great.
Jessica, I'll give this one to you. This is where we got the final money for Phase 3 for the bypass highway going from the hospital right to Manitoba Road. So Phase 3 being Brackley Point Road to Manitoba Road.
Correct.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, this report is to get council to endorse Phase 3 of the AT pathway from Brackley Point Road to the Confederation Trail right near Mount Edward Road, which is a great accomplishment to get that perimeter AT path completed. So the resolution would support Landmark Construction, which was the low bid, in awarding them this tender.
Perfect. And I just want to say it's great to see this coming ahead. I know years ago, Elmer McFadgen, an MLA with the government at one time, wanted to see a trail go from the hospital up to St. Peter's Road. And Elmer had passed away, and it was good to see John Andrews drew up this plan and got it from actually the hospital to where we're talking about going out to Manitoba Road. So great to see. I know a lot of people are using Phase 1 and 2, so this is really completed.
Yeah.
And once you get to Phase 3 and you get down to the Confederation Trail, you can pretty well go anywhere in the aisle. So,
Well, anywhere north and south.
thank you for that. That's good work.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, can I just mention also,
Yep.
Jessica, before you arrived, there was your former colleague, former manager, Ramona Doyle. This, as you know, this was funding that was designated for Fitzroy Street, and we redirected to where we have the pathway along the arterial highway. So it's great to see that it's coming near to a completion, and it'll be all part of that active transportation pathway network that we're doing regionally. Thank you very much.
So can I have a mover and a seconder to move this on to council? Okay, moved by His Worship, second by Trevor. We'll go to the next private land naturalization, and we'll bring Bobby back on. Bobby, you're good to
Okay.
go
I'm
back.
back. Thank you.
Okay. Private land naturalization, Jessica.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I brought this report forward for conversation and discussion. As you probably all are aware, there was conversation, communication in the media and internally about situations where property owners in Charlottetown want to do something with their properties other than cut the grass, where they want to add PEI native plants, naturalize, add pollinator no-mow spaces. And I think it's the responsibility of our department to speak up in a way to advocate for those types of practices. So the report kind of details why we would do that, which would be many reasons, including adding biodiversity, reducing pollution from reduced mowing, managing stormwater, reducing erosion, filtering the air. This is something that's done by lots of municipalities, so there's bylaws across the country where bylaws have been amended to allow for this practice. As you know, in our strat plan, we promote sustainability. This wouldn't replace our current bylaw, which says that you need to mow your lawn to a certain height. It would just add an exemption to say that if you do X, Y, and Z, then you can have these spaces on your property. So it can be very prescriptive and say there has to be a buffer mowed around it. It can't contain dangerous and hazardous plants. It can't be just strictly not mowing your lawn and letting it become full of weeds. It has to be intentional, managed, purposeful. So the report is to recommend that council give us the support to have discussions with other internal departments, such as Protective and Emergency Services who enforce the bylaw. And I attached an example of the city of Burlington. There's a lot of examples, but I didn't want to include too many. But so there's one there that outlines how they've made that exemption to their bylaw. It's very clear it can't restrict sight lines, it can't block fire hydrants, it can't block sidewalks. And yeah, so that's our recommendation, is that the city does get something formalized so that when this happens again, right now, if somebody wants to do something good with their property and have native plants and pollinator no-mow spaces, if we're following the bylaw, we can't really support that because the bylaw says you just have to cut your grass. But if we do something like this, we can have a formal procedure process for if people did want to do that.
So when I read through it, Jessica, I know it kind of gave some ideas of some plant species, and I know Burlington species are different than ours, but I think you gave some plant species. So, and it also, I think, makes it clear that it's not just letting your grass go along for the sake of saying I want to naturalize my lawn. There's certain species that they allow in that. I got a question for Eleanor, and I'm just wondering. I guess there's nothing wrong with talking about what we'd like to move for a plan. I'm just wondering, Eleanor, with a court case pending with the city, what we do with this. Like, is there something, my recommendation is going to be moving on to police and protection. But I'm just kind of wondering, seeing that we're in a court case, we don't usually deal with things like that when they're in court. So I just wondering.
Have they actually filed?
Yeah. Do you want to take the mic?
I'm not aware of that detail, no.
But I think what the chairs also say, it's a pending trial or a court case, so I'm at the same mindset that we have to be careful.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I haven't received anything to confirm that legal action has been taken against the city for this. That said, if the city were to move forward with a bylaw like this, what this person has threatened action against the city is something that's unorganized versus a bylaw moving forward like this is where there's conditions and factors of control of what areas you're allowed to have as wild. This current property wouldn't fit what would be going forward with the bylaw. But that said, they might be interested in where this bylaw goes, where they could follow the rules and resolve the issue.
So we're okay, Eleanor, to continue to move on? Perfect. Okay, thank you.
And, Mr. Chair, could I just add that the suit or the court case is under the existing bylaw? Any new bylaw that is amended, or if this bylaw is amended, that doesn't affect the court case. It just has to be judged or tried under the current municipal legislation. But I do agree with the chair that, I'd like to, make sure that all the bases are touched and ensure that going forward. But, Mr. Chair, there are many examples of biodiverse lawns around the city. You can go out on Seaview Boulevard, just down in Ambrose Street, just two that I know of, that do a great job on providing this biodiversity that we always talk about, not just for bumblebees, but all of the organisms that live in our environment. So I think it's very important that we're going down this route, but we have to make sure that the silos are working with each other so that we can make this work effectively for all of us.
No,
Thank you, sir.
I agree. I think there's other properties that do what Jessica's recommending, and I think this has come up through the pending court case, if so be it. That's why I didn't want it to interfere with that case. So, but my recommendation would be now is I think this would move on to police and protective services for their review because they cover the bylaw. So if committee agrees, you want to move to move it on to them? Yeah, I move it. Second? Okay. Thank you. So that will move on to police and protective services. Third item on the agenda is our private stump removal rebate. Staff did a really good job putting that together, by the way, I wouldn't mind saying. I think that's what we've been looking for. There was a question on the floor the other night on the possibility of people that have already had them removed, could they get rebated? I noticed that part of this proposal was that it would not. It'd be going forward as the contractor would fill out the form and make sure that the tree was the size that it needed to be. So this has been here before. I don't know if anybody's got any questions on that. Trevor or your worship?
No, Mr. Chair. Time to move on, and I think what you're saying, I'm sure that staff would agree, that it's on a go-forward basis. Anything that has taken place up to the initiation or the implementation of this proposal would be not allowable. Is that what you're suggesting? Is that my understanding? Like, if I already had my stump removed, can I apply for this rebate? And your answer is, or the answer of Jessica is
No.
no, correct? Going through the chip?
That's what we're saying in this.
Yep.
Now, if there was a discussion on, I mean, it's like I said to the council the other night, I'm not sure how you would really go ahead and prove that you had that stump removed, unless you had pictures and so on. I don't know if that would even do justice, but I think mostly when we bring in policies, it's the same as ditch and fill. When you go to do a road, somebody has their ditch already done, they paid for it.
Yeah. We don't
That was
pay
their
for
choice, they hit it, they had the luxury of having that for as long as they had, but we just do the ones that are left to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're saying here. I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
very much, and I think that I'm sure it will be well appreciated by many residents. Hopefully, the Brahmins will couple with our funding, but that's just a wait and see matter, and
Last I got from government was, I told them that, we're looking to present this on the 28th, we have to have an answer. So they said, well, we don't have an answer right now, but if we do come in, we can just give you the matching funds and you can extend it to more people, so be it. So we'll see, but we'll move on this, I guess, on the 28th.
yes, for sure, on the 28th, it will be on the
Now,
agenda.
I will not be here on the 28th, so Trevor, you could probably take that meeting. I'll be in Calgary, so.
Okay.
Unless I phone in, I may be able to.
No, you can phone in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Just a question, Mr. Chair. Is there a list already formed of residents? Is it full, or is it we starting fresh with this program for the stump removal for residents?
I'm sorry,
Like, is there a list of residents have already kind of put their name for requesting for stump removal? Or,
not that I'm aware of. The program that's out there now, that the province is it's funding, and I assume the federal government are funding it for them, did not include stump removal. So there's no program that we're aware of that includes stump removal. This was something that we thought, there's stumps part of the tree. I don't know why it wasn't removal, but, if it was a way to be able to help constituents with the cost to remove the stumps. It's not, I shouldn't say it's not a lot of money, but I mean, it's, if you got $1,000 stump or $9.99, you get $200 towards it, and above that you get $500. So if you have a stump that costs you $2,000 to remove, at least you're getting $500 back.
right,
So it's just a way that the city could help.
all right, no, thank you.
And I don't know of any list, there wouldn't be a list yet because we haven't passed this program. So
Correct, Mr. Chair, there is no current list for private stumping requests, no.
So I assume COMS, when this gets passed, COMS will put out a notice on the program.
It's definitely a good news story, Mr. Chair, and good on you and the committee to push this forward. And as you said, hopefully the provincial government will match the funding, but it's all a wait and see. So, yeah, let's get it on the 28th and move forward.
So, any other questions?
No, just under new business, if I can give notification, just a quick, for the next meeting. It's just, there was an article in the Guardian last week, last week, about how concrete, asphalt, and urban heat islands add misery of heat waves. I'll pass that on to you, Jessica, so that you can just look into it, about how we're doing a lot of this paving and concrete, and it just adds to the warming of our communities. That
So what is it you're asking to have on the agenda?
just to look at, sir, in developing commercial or multi-unit residential properties, you've already talked about it. We need more green space. We need more pocket parks, just to allow the earth to cool with its own abilities instead of covering it with concrete, asphalt, how can we make it more, like even using, providing, or suggesting permeable surfacing, that is like there's concrete out there that is permeable, that allows the heat to get through to the ground. Just some of the issues that I'd like to discuss going forward, because heat waves, as you know, is getting to be a factor or a part of our forecasting, and I'd like to really, if we can just get ahead of it, and I think something that we just need a little background information and have a discussion. And the other notification I'd like to give is just going forward with the Capital Region Active Transportation Pathway. You did mention, Mr. Chair, at one of our, I think the last meeting, there are reports out there that have already been done about a Capital Region Active Transportation plan. I'd like to get those reports, whether it's from Mr. Underhay or what we did as a city ourselves, as part of the discussion going forward, and maybe getting some community members on that task force. That's all I want to do.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. And just one more thing I wouldn't mind adding, I guess notice. I did talk to the minister with environment. I just wonder if there's a benefit. He seems to think there is, if there's a benefit for the city to look into a solar farm, creating our own solar farm. Could you or your staff, Jessica, look into that and just see the benefits of the city of Charlottetown could be if we did a solar farm? And with the amount of funding out there between the federal government and the provincial government, it seems that there's a possibility of up to 80% cost. So I'm just wondering how that may benefit the city. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
and I
know
can-
we're kind of, a lot of our power is coming from Maritime Electric, and anyway, whether we have to continue on that road or not, I don't know, but could you put something together to see if there's?
Sure, and I know there was some past history with that, and Ramona had submitted a funding application. I think Maritime Electric was involved in those conversations, but the funding was not approved. So it's something that our energy management engineer has been resurfacing, that funding proposal, and looking at recently, so be happy.
Perfect,
yeah.
perfect. If we can get me that information, then I'll have another meeting.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, that did happen just a couple of years ago. Maritime Electric, the city of Charlottetown, did submit a funding request of $36 million to ISIP, and they turned it down. But doesn't preclude or prevent us from reapplying and looking at how to make it work for the whole municipality. So there's background information out there. I'm sure that Maritime Electric would love to come in and speak to that issue with this committee.
Perfect, perfect. Just on a side note, does anybody know, is the new Simmons Rink, do we already have solar panels projected to go on that as part of the construction? I know it was
To
gonna
my
be-
knowledge, it's being built as net zero ready.
Yeah,
So I think the hookups and the infrastructure and the electricals being made in a way that we can add solar panels later. That's my understanding.
okay.
Why you suggest that we add them as part of this?
Yes, I am.
I do, I agree with you.
I am.
Fully agree. There's lots of sun out there on that Simmons field.
Anything else? Yeah. Move for adjournment?
Move to
By His
adjourn.
Worship, second by Trevor. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.